CJ on the track.
Black Scully on check. Got Nike graphic tee on check. Welcome to another marvelous episode on today's docket. This is a late night show, late night edition of Governor of College Football. Y'all know we typically live at 11 a.m. That ain't gonna change. It's just today, everything we've been dealing with today. It was best to go live at this very moment. We're also going live for Overreaction Monday tonight as well. So super excited for what we got going on. College football is on right now. And as we get further into our what's on today's docket segment, we're going to talk more about what we're actually going to get into tonight. So far into the news topics, Urban Meyer versus Dave Portnoy. It's weird when you're kind of used to being the guy that's kind of looked at as the, the outlandish one, the crazy one. But I don't think Urban Meyer be able to match Dave Portnoy's energy, to be honest with you. It's going to be interesting. I think he had a weird choice of words when trying to decide, his thoughts on Dave Portnoy. We'll get into that in a second. Desmond Howard got an extension. That's, really good. I think that's, outstanding for college game day. I think he's a pivotal piece to it. He's not going to get the credit he deserves, but I definitely think he's a pivotal piece to it. DeShaun Foster, these are his confessions. He goes a la Usher style, talking about some of the fears he had, last year. Also, Garrett Nussmeier speaks on our new quarterback leader, and Mark Gronowski. We'll talk a little bit about that. Shane Beamer's playing a little bit of depth chart games. We're going to also talk about that. Bill Belichick versus TCU, and he's got some great thoughts. I think Bill Belichick is a savvy coach, and I think many times with a lot of savvy coaches, they know how to compliment teams to make them comfortable right before they play them. That's always been Bill Belichick's philosophy. Not saying that he doesn't genuinely feel the way he feels about their team, but at the end of the day, he's going to always do the right thing by complimenting the team, never giving the team bulletin board material. And a lot of times you're going to see his teams adopt that same philosophy. And then Michael Vick talk about some of the advice that he got from Coach Prime now that he's stepping into a very similar realm. Former player, played the game at an elite level, going to the HBCU route, and then hopefully it lands him, a job, somewhere, at the FBS level. We've seen Eddie George do the same thing. He was down at Tennessee State, now he's at Bowling Green, whose game was delayed, but we'll talk about that as well. For our Governor React segment, we're going to look at week one upsets that Bleacher Report came up with. I got a few week one upsets. I actually got a parlay in right now because I got USF upset in Boise State today, and it's looking pretty good. They've had opportunities. Both teams had opportunities to make plays, but yeah, we're going to talk about week one upsets that could have actually happened. And I think there's a lot of games this week that people are just kind of writing off as, this team should win. I think this era of college football, I think we want to see a lot of times, this year that, everything isn't what we always think. I'm going to just be honest with that. Governor ruling, we're going to do our Heisman Watch 4.0. Every week we'll be doing a Heisman Watch. So, whatever week it is, next week is week 2, Heisman Watch 2.0. That's what we're going to do every week. And we'll look at the top 8 spots, and then I'll tell you who I think is the, Heisman favorite at the moment. And then around the nation, we're going to do some live look-ins at some games. We're going to look at Boise State and South Florida. We're going to look at Lafayette at Bowling Green. That game was delayed. I think they continued it. East Carolina versus NC State. I think that's a very underrated game. And then Jacksonville State versus UCF. We may have time to look at some other games. I think Dell State and Delaware are playing right now as well. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Governor of College Football, hashtag go CFB. CFB Nation, your only college football destination. Let's get it. Governor of College Football, we're going to recap ACC.
Hey, that's
Two
CJ
great
on
defensive
the
minds.
track.
They have to be better on that side of the Shout out to the good folks over at Bull Rush who sponsors this segment and every segment on Governor of College Football, as well as everyone on CFB Nation. This is our Into the News segment. I am so happy to be live for you guys. Prime time, it kind of feels like that prime feeling I enjoy going live when I go live at 11 a.m. I feel like it's a good time. Sometimes I feel like people can play, take lunch breaks at that time. I also just feel like, I don't know, I've always been the morning person. That's who I am. Every morning, I try to wake up around 3:45 a.m. Sometimes I hit the snooze button and go back to sleep. I couldn't do it before when I was working full time, but now I do have that flexibility of saying, hey, I can hit the snooze button, but probably 8 times out of 10, I'm getting up and I'm getting ready, making my bed, listening to my gospel music, and getting ready for the day. But let's talk about our into the news segments. And I thought that I updated this. Apparently I didn't. This is our one from yesterday. Let's see if I can find the one for today. There we are. There's the one for today. So let's get to our into the news segment. We got Urban Meyer versus Dave Portnoy. Not exactly, but in a weird way, in my opinion, to be 100% honest with you. So Urban Meyer takes kind of a sly dig at Dave Portnoy ahead of Barstool's founder making his Big Noon Kickoff debut. Expect fireworks when a Michigan superfan sits across from Ohio State. Rivalry king. I know Urban Meyer's daughter is excited about it. She thinks that their programming is going to explode. I know a lot of people who've been watching College Game Day for a while. I think that's why they added Pat McAfee, why they added Nick Saban. Lee Corso is leaving. Lee Corso was the reason a lot of us watch. I'll still continue to watch because I do prefer their content and their style of storytelling over Big Noon Kickoff, but there are days I do try to tune into both of them. One go to the commercial, I'll tune into the other one when I'm home, of course, because you guys know I'm like the fly jock of college football. I'm always on the road. So I am, super excited for Big Noon Kickoff. I think this is the true opportunity to close the gap. I don't think they'll ever catch up, but Dave Portnoy, his following is huge. What he's done with Barstool Sports is huge. His pizza thing, the one bite pizza thing that he's got going on, that is huge as well. And I just thought that there could have been better choice of words. Once you're at the collegiate level, you're a coach. At the NFL level, you're a coach, or a player. Many a times you should be media trained and you know how to answer certain questions. But sometimes even when you are media trained and you know how to properly answer questions, sometimes the inconsistency in a proper answer, you can kind of take, what you need to take from it and say, hey, that don't sound right. So I don't know if Urban Meyer don't know how to react to him. But I tell you what, he better, for the game, during rivalry week 14, he better learn how to react to him. Because if Michigan beat them for a fifth straight time, him and Urban Meyer may end up throwing punches. I'm just telling you that right here, right now. I think Urban Meyer could have chose better words, but he wouldn't be Urban Meyer if he did choose better words. At the end of the day, I think he's going to speak his mind. That probably, not what the execs probably want him to do, all the time. But he is going to speak his mind, and it is what it is. So that's the Urban Meyer versus Dave Portnoy. Desmond Howard getting a much-needed extension. My favorite college football player of all time. I think I told you guys that before. But, the Heisman legend, he re-ups with ESPN, locking in for his 21st season. I think he deserves it. Desmond Howard gets a lot of crap on the internet. And I'm not going to lie. I'm going to be completely transparent with you guys. It bothers me a lot of times. I'm just going to be real. It really bothers me because I don't think people quite understands the legend that he is and the legend that he was. I mean, he's had legend moments in the NFL, had a lot of legend moments at the collegiate level. I feel like Desmond Howard will never get the respect that he deserves. And it's kind of just is what it is at this point. I think it's something that we've all accepted. But, to me, he's one of the staples of ESPN College Game Day. I think he'll continue to be a staple there. I think there was kind of two moments where College Game Day changed for me a little bit. One of those moments is when Reese Davis joined it, and mind you, I think Reese Davis has done an outstanding job, and at this point, he's probably surpassed Chris Fowler in my mind, but Chris Fowler did such an outstanding job hosting that show, so it took me a while to get used to Reese Davis, but Reese Davis, like I said, has done an outstanding job hosting that show, but like I said, when you get a lot of changes, sometimes it's different, but College Game Day has set themselves up for a lot of success. Herb Street is still there. He's been there for a very long time. Now, you add, Desmond Howard's there. Of course, Reese Davis is hosting the show. Then with Nick Saban and Pat McAfee, whose approaches are completely different, I think you have a well-rounded group, and I think that'll lead to a lot of excitement. And College Game Day is still the staple when we look at pregame college football shows. It 100% is. But Big Noon Kickoff will close that gap this year. So College Game Day, make sure you're on your A game for sure. So DeShaun Foster goes usher with these are his confessions. The UCLA second-year head coach admits he was scared stepping into that role last year. I can see that he was scared. I mean, I think we all saw how bad his appearance was at Big Ten Media Days a year ago. And make no mistake about it, it was terrible. It was absolutely terrible. But I think his lame duck period was terrible as well. So I can't place all the blame and all the onus on DeShaun Foster. Chip Kelly has to get a lot of that. Because if you looked at his ability to recruit his first few seasons there, and then that last season, he just didn't care. He wanted out of college football. He wanted out of this current model of college football. And he ultimately ended at Ohio State where he could just focus on calling plays. And he knew eventually when an NFL job came knocking, he would go. And now he's with, I think, the Vegas Raiders. But at the end of the day, I have high expectations for this DeShaun Foster team. I know a lot of people are high on Utah this year, but that game at 11 p.m., I can't wait to watch that game. We'll be leaving the Clemson LSU game about an hour and some change ride, so I'm hoping by the beginning of the second quarter, I'll be able to catch that game, and I will be watching that game. I know a lot of people got a lot of hopes about Devin Dampier and what Utah can do. I do as well. But let me tell you this. Nico Iamaleava, Tino Sinceri, Mikey Matthews and company, they're coming. DeShaun Foster, I'm telling you, this is going to be a different team. I'm not saying they're going to be in the college football playoff, but don't be surprised if they're bowl eligible or a game or two above it. Do not be surprised at that at all. So I think transparency is important. I think if you could look at a coach and, this is probably the first time I ever heard a coach say that he was scared. And this is just Sean Foster. He's respected. He had a storied career during his tenure in SoCal at UCLA. So the fact that he admits that he was nervous, bro, or scared was the words he used, to be honest with you, I think that's impressive. I think you got to respect him, man, to be, completely transparent. So let's talk about Mark Gronowski. I think we've talked about him quite a bit on this show. I think you guys know where I'm at and know how I feel about our football and where they're at and how they're kind of on their quest to be, I think to have balance. Like for years, it's been Phil Parker and that defense. It 100% is. Don't matter who they graduate, don't matter who they send to the next level to the NFL, they seem to just be able to replace the production that they lose. They've been able to do that the entire time, it feels like, since this tenure has been together. And you look at it, and it's always been a defensive-oriented team, and it's always been ugly to watch. But Tim Lester did something. Their offense was abysmal a few seasons ago. The fact that they were in the Big 12 championship with, I forgot Kirk Ferentz' son's name as the offensive coordinator, that offense was so bad. And then finally somebody had to step in and say, hey, this is enough of the nepotism. He has to get out of here, right? I think it was Brian Ferentz, if I'm not mistaken. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comment section. But Tim Lester, this offense wasn't as bad as it normally is last year. There were flashes, and then the fact that Tim Lester loves to run the RPO offense, and the fact that he got one of the better RPO quarterbacks in college football in Mark Gronowski from the FCS level, expect this offense to be pretty good. And when I say pretty good, I ain't talking about they're going to be top 25 offense, no. But if they're top 50 in offense this year, or top 55, which there are 68 FBS teams. The year I was talking about with Brian Ferentz, they were like 100th and something, maybe like 112 out of 33 teams at the time in scoring offense. So you talking about sub 50. If they make the sub 50s with Tim Lester, this team's going to be really dominant because they're going to play defense. And there's a couple schools that got to make trips there to Kinnick Stadium in Iowa City, and they may come out of there with a loss. I'm just being honest with y'all. It might not be what you want to hear, but it is what it is. I think that's what you're going to get with this Iowa team. And I have a high respect for Kirk Ferentz. I don't think he's respected enough across the country. The people in Iowa City respect him, but maybe they don't even respect him enough, to be honest with you. He's done a lot of winning there. I feel like some people want more. Yes, I get it. But, Kirk Ferentz has done an outstanding job during his tenure in Irish City. So Shane Beamer's playing depth chart games. And I think this is all a part of his mental psyche heading into the Beamer Bowl that they play on Sunday. CFB Nation, we cover the Nation Tour. We will be live in attendance. I will be watching that game from the sidelines. And if you guys don't know, my dog, Road Dog, his company is doing a pick'em league. I'm in that pick'em league. I went 3-2 week one. We're not going to talk about it. We're just going to get over it. Hawaii won the game. I didn't think they had won it. I thought Phil Longo would have that same Houston team right against Western Kentucky. It's all good. I plan on, making up some ground this week. But I think this Beamer Bowl game is going to be a lot better than advertised. Of course, Shane Beamer's going to want to come in here high. You want to get that offense running. We already know what they're going to do on the defensive side of the ball. They've had a lot of success there over recent memory, and they've put a lot of production in the NFL from that defensive side of the ball. I think that we can't, talk about the segment without that going unknown. But he jokes that fans can figure it out by watching warm-ups. it's funny. We do remember we had the segment. I did a governor ruling segment a few weeks ago, and it was about Jim Nagy, who is the GM in Norman for the Oklahoma Sooners, who was at the Reese Senior Bowl, and he joked about like few things mean more in fall camp than depth charts. And I believe Josh Pate said something to him. And I believe, and of course I addressed it and why I have the utmost respect for Jim Nagy. I think Jim Nagy is pivotal to the success that we've had here at CFB Nation because he allowed us to go to the Senior Bowl, and that gave us a stamp of approval, and it was like a domino effect. We went from the Senior Bowl, then we did the NFL Combine, then we did the NFL Draft, and then we started getting into a few schools that were credentialed on us that blossomed into over 250 some odd schools that we're able to go to when we like to, and I think that is incredible, and a lot of that started with the Senior Bowl, to be honest with you. So I don't know. I think the depth chart thing does matter to the media. I think it matters to local media. I think it matters to people like myself and people who are media personalities and cover this sport as much as we do. But yeah, I mean, is he playing mind games? Absolutely. But I think they need to get all with a fast start this year. I think they need to. They definitely have a team that can be we talked about bubble watch just yesterday on our yesterday episode. We talked about teams that are on the cusp, and we went conference by conference. We did both FBS and G5 level when we talked about the schools that are on the cusp of making the college football playoffs. South Carolina is one of those teams. But if there's a coach in America right now who's fighting for his job, and there's a few of them that I name quite consistently, but one of them that I'm naming and I hate the name is Brent Pry, Virginia Tech coach, because he's such a stand-up dude, bro. He's a son of a coach. We've had an opportunity here at CFB Nation to speak to him quite a few times, man. Such a solid dude. I think that was the first interview that I ever did, like, on somebody's campus. When I interviewed Grant Wells, their starting quarterback at the time, that was the first one. So I never forget moments like that. I know Nino's done a plethora of interviews. So has Moon. D-Now has done some interviews. I've done some as well. And so has Boomer. But, the first one that I ever did on campus where I felt like they rolled out the red carpet, it was Mr. Travis Wells, the main SID there at Virginia Tech. And Coach Brent Pry allowed us to come in there and do what we need to do. So, I don't know. I have a great deal of respect for both of these programs. I expect bigger things out of South Carolina this year, but I think if it's just week one, and the thing that I've seen the past 2 weeks, I was at a game last week, I was at NC Central and Southern game last week, a lot of mental mistakes. The game that's on right now, and you might can hear it in the background, is the Boise State and USF game. It has been a lot of mistakes, a lot of false starts. Quarterbacks are holding on the ball too long, and we're going to do a live look into some of these games later. Sack them. Is that a safety? Come on. I got USF winning this game. I'm sorry. My apologies. How unprofessional of me to watch college football. I love college football, so of course I'm going to watch college football, right? And then coming up with our sixth story of the day, we got Bill Belichick. Talk about TCU and talk about the explosive plays. He said that's one thing that stood out to him. So if you just sit here and you read the tea leaves and you kind of say, okay, what is he trying to say? So I can take this message, I can decipher it, I can decode it, and I can put it to the side and say this. Bill Belichick is telling his team, keep everything in front of you, don't allow the big plays. It's that simple. We don't have to read too much into this. So if he's complimenting something that they do well, that has been an area of focus. Minimize the big plays. 100%. I think, and TCU has, since Sonny Dykes has been there, they've been able to make a lot of big plays. But newsflash, they're in the Big 12. Big 12 always has big plays. It is what it is. Wow, it's loud at USF. They're rocking. Byron Brown is back. I don't know if you guys see it. He struck 2 players today. For a guy that's coming back from an injury last year, I'm super high on USF this year. It's incredible to watch. Oh, man, I hope you guys are watching college football and watching this at the same time. If not, please do. But if you aren't, then you really a 1%er and y'all rocking with me, and I appreciate that. You could be anywhere in the world, but y'all kicking it with the governor, and that's what's up. So, let's get to our last story. Michael Vick was kind of talking about, him and Coach Sanders, Coach Prime in Boulder, was saying, he's making his coaching debut tonight, if I'm not mistaken. And he reveals that, Coach Sanders' advice shaped his approach, do it your way, put your own spin on it. And something like that, I think a lot of people could deem as cliche, if we're being honest. But it's really sound advice. Like, when you're in that realm, I'm the type of person, I would rather do something, do it my way, stick to my guns in doing it. And when I say do it my way, I don't mean being stubborn and not listening to my staff and all of that. But I would rather do it the way that I would want to do it. That way, if it doesn't work out, I know, hey, I can say I'm Frank Sinatra, I did it my way. right? Like Dabo was saying right now. I did it my way. But, when you do it the other way and you conform and you try to do it the way everybody else want to do it and it doesn't work out, then he's like, man, I should have just stuck to my guns. That's something I never want to say. Like, you know what I'm saying? Even then with this show, I knew once I had the opportunity, we on episode 76, right? Keep in mind, we was just on episode 11 in April. So I need everybody kind of like, and that's the end of April, early May, to be honest with you. Episode 11, now we're on episode 76. I knew when I got the opportunity, I was going to go crazy. I was going to be going live 5, even 6 times a week. Like, you know what I'm saying? And I was going to be super consistent with it. And that's the type of person I am. So, yes, do it your way. Put your own spin on it. I think it's 100% him. And then he's in an area that's not too far where he's from to be out there in Norfolk. So he's impacting a community that he's familiar with. So I'm super excited for Michael Vick this year. Super excited for DeShaun Jackson this year at Dell State. And I think this is a trend that we're going to see. I know LaShawn McCoy is interested in getting a coaching job as well. So this is a trend we'll see. Go do your thing at the HBCU level. They'll see you winning, and then you can step into the FBS realm and get to it. So this is our Into the News segment. We're going to move right along to our Governor React segment. Let's get to it. Alrighty, Governor Reacts. We're going to react to Bleacher Report put out a piece on week 1 upsets that can happen, and I'll go over some of those, but I'll also talk about some of the upsets that I see happening. Upsets that hit: South Florida over Boise State, Tampa Bay, right? Byron Brown is healthy. The tempo offense. We know that Alex Golish for that Tennessee offense that put up a lot of points back in 2022, he was the offensive coordinator there. And I've always been a huge fan of Alex Golish. And the offenses aren't as dynamite as I expected, but the physicality is there. I mean, we even seeing it right now with Byron Brown. He's trucking people. Their defense is playing great. A lot of mental mistakes, but that is week 1. Because, in fall camp, things become monotonous. In spring camp, things become monotonous. You see players that dominate. And though, like defensive players, maybe there's a linebacker that's really showing out in camp. It's easier to show out in camp when you're seeing the same thing every day and you're able to collect intel and figure things out. But what about when you see somebody new? You know what I'm saying? It's a new opponent there. So, East Carolina over at NC State, the lines really changed a lot this week. And shout out to my dog, Joe Gigolo, he was with 99 fan. I forgot who he is now, but shout out to him. He's one of the first people that I feel like I met, one of my first industry connects that I met. I remember my first spring game I ever went to was at NC State in Raleigh. It was a rainy day. I drove down there because I didn't care. I was just so excited to be credentialed for a game. Sat in the press box, and I remember just continuing to talk about Kevin Concepcion. I was texting Nino. I was like, this kid, Casey Concepcion, is going to be really good. And he was like, and Joe Gigolo was sitting not too far from me. He's like, who is that you keep talking about? Because I was just talking out loud. That's how I am. If I'm watching something, I'm doing something, talking out loud. I don't care. You can look at me like I'm crazy. At the end of the day, I don't care. I really don't. You know what I'm saying? That's just who I am. So, and then once he, realized I was talking about Casey Concepcion, he's like, you're right, he is open every play. He wasn't getting the ball every play, but he was open every play. And just stuff like that you notice. So Cincinnati over Nebraska, hey, there's a lot of people who are believers that, Nebraska is one of those teams. They're following the Matt Rule, year 3 rule. And they're and he's got a lot of stuff going. The fact that they took a bus out there, I think that game starts at 9 p.m. tonight. Super excited about that. Me and Nino are going live for Overreaction Thursday. We are recapping, previewing. We doing the whole 9 yards. Me and Nino trying to get back to where we were in 2023. We was going live twice a week on that show, and you add that with the fact, I'm already going live, 5 days a week, sometimes 6 days a week. It's honestly just impressive, man. And I love where we at as a company. I love the, camaraderie we have. I love the fact that everybody play their position. And I think that's important. But Cincinnati over Nebraska can certainly happen. I went to Big 12 Media Days this year. I did have an opportunity to talk to Brendan Sorsby. Him and Dylan Raiola are going to have one heck of a matchup. But Brendan Sorsby is just one of those guys that, when he talks, you listen to him and you believe everything he's saying. And they do got Dante Corleone that, he's their – I think he's their 3-tech for their team. He's an outstanding defensive lineman. I like the Cincinnati team. I like the moxie that they showed up with. We saw Brendan Sorsby rocking the mullet. I'm like, yo, who does this kid think he is? But, like I said, I had an outstanding time interviewing him. This probably would have been a great opportunity for me to put the interview up. But, if you haven't seen it before, it was in one of my lives. Which one, I don't know. We just moving on up. Syracuse over Tennessee is one I like a lot. I'm like, Bleacher Report, y'all watching the show? I mean, if you're watching the show, just you know what I'm saying? If y'all watch the show, just let me know. Because I feel like they got a couple of upsets that I've been kind of talking about. But, Fran Brown, it's going to be interesting, man. Fran Brown, he knows the SEC. I feel like he'll have a few conversations with, some of the buddies that he had at, at Georgia, like Kirby Smart and other guys. Like, hey, how do I prepare for this team? How do we play this team? And how do we prepare for, Joey Hazel's veer shoot offense, So I think it's just one of those things. Super excited for this game. This is another game, not to flex, not to brag. I'll be on the sidelines for this game as well. I'll be at both of the Aflac Kickoff Challenge. Excited over those. And then Florida Atlantic over Maryland. I've been saying this one all summer. I think Florida Atlantic has a real opportunity, and I'm pounding the table when I'm saying this. They have a real opportunity to win the American. That Zach Gidley offense, as tight as he ran his fall camp, because we were there. He caught that zone. Let's go. My bad, y'all. I'm going crazy watching the game. My fault. But we were there. We were at the camp that Zach Gidley ran. And it's so dope. I'm seeing him getting his flowers. Been seeing him interviewing on a lot of different platforms now. Real cool dude. He follows me on Twitter. He's retweeted some of my stuff. But yes, Florida Atlantic can't beat Maryland. I think they could come in there. If Malik Washington is the starter, I haven't heard any news on that. If he is the starter, I think they'll be able to get pressure on the quarterback. And I think 100% that that tempo, because their tempo was fast in practice. Like, I felt sorry for the skill position players. Like, when they break for water, like, they were like trying to move fast but struggling to move because the pace is so fast. That Achilles going to go super fast this year. Florida Atlantic over Maryland, I think it's going to be one of the biggest upsets this week, and everybody's going to be talking about. And don't be surprised. And if it's a close game and Maryland finds a way to win, cool. But this is a team in Maryland and a guy, and a coach that I respect so much, and Coach Loxley. And it's heartbreaking that, he's on the hot seat right now. I think we just got to be honest about it. So those are some of the games to watch. Also, Toledo over Kentucky. There are G5 games that are bad matchups. There are some G5 games that's just terrible matchups. Like, Wisconsin invited Miami of Ohio into Madison tonight. Wisconsin won a game. That's just not a matchup that I'm willing to do. And Miami of Ohio wants smoke every year. They play big teams every year at the beginning of the year. They always do it, right? That's going to be an interesting one. DeQuan Finn and Company in Oxford, Ohio. That's going to be a good game. Florida State over Alabama is not happening. Bleacher Report. That ain't me. That's Bleacher Report. No, it's not happening. Hawaii over Arizona. Now, I know it's going to be interesting. I know it's going to be interesting with, my apologies, I just got an important message from my dog, Nino. And I got my pops in the morning phone, my bad. Florida State over Alabama not happen. Hawaii, I know they had a good week last week. They got a big win, first, Power 4 win since 2019. They're not beating Arizona. I know a lot of y'all wrote Arizona off. Noah Fafita will be back this year. We're going to see 2023 Noah Fafita this year. Guarantee that. Colorado State over Washington isn't happening. I'm sorry. UCLA over Utah can happen, and I think it will happen. Just being honest. And then Beamer Bowl. I don't know how I feel about this. This is one of them games where, remember I told you guys I like to stick to my guns? Remember I told you guys I like to stick to my guns, and like if I make a take, I'm going to stick with that take. Like, this is one of them games where I don't want to say, oh, South Carolina will win this, but it'll be a hard-fought battle. When my gut says, yo, Virginia Tech may find a way to win this game. Like, because I think both teams need this game. I think this is an important game for both teams. If South Carolina loses this game, you know how many people are high on South Carolina this year? You know how many people will hit the panic button immediately if they lose to Virginia Tech? It can happen. It can 100% happen. So I got another show coming up in about 20 minutes. I'm going to zoom through the rest of my segments. Me and Nino are going live at 8:15, and I will need a slight break in between here because I got to make a thumbnail for that before we go live. But just make sure y'all hang around, even after I end my junk. Just know we're going live. We'll be doing some previews for this week. Quick little show. We're going to have some fun. And don't be surprised if I go live again tonight. It's just the way I am. It's just the way I'm wired. If there's been some crazy stuff happening tonight, I'm going live. And we're going to do, Governor of College Football, our last sports machine. Y'all know I'm a huge fan of, George Michaels, local NBC reporter, used to do a show that my dad used to tell me to go to sleep. And he'll wake me up when it's on. He ain't never tell my mom. My pops is a real one for that. She probably know now because she's probably watching it. But, it is what it is. So let's go ahead and get into our next segment, Governor Ruling. And this is our Heisman Watch 1.0. I'm going to zoom through this segment. My apologies, everyone. But I started late, and I have another show right after this one. So we're going to get into the top 8, Heisman candidates. Every week we'll do a Heisman Watch 1.0. And there's always a couple of teams or a couple of players I'm going to show some love to, especially at the G5 ranks, because they don't get enough love. But their list right now was Cade Klubnik from Clemson, Arch Manning, Texas at 2, Garrett Nussmeier at 3. He should be at 1, unless they lay an egg against Clemson for the Battle of Death Valley. Jeremiah Smith at 4, Sam Levitt at 5, Julian Sayin at 6. It's a little high for me. Drew Aller at 7, and then LaNorris Sellers at 8. Those are the Heisman candidates. I think that's pretty much chalk if you look at, who the candidates are. I'm a fan of a lot of these guys. If Julian Sayin one, I think they're just looking at the talent around him. I think you have better options. I really do think you have better options. You can say a kid like DJ Lagway at Florida, in my opinion, would be a better option. You can say a guy like John Mateer, who's in Norman right now, with his offensive coordinator, and they both came from Wazoo together. And, that's a great quarterback and offensive coordinator pairing. And I see that Jeremiah Smith is the only quarterback player on this list. But, if we want to talk about defense and somebody that impacts the special teams, the best player in college football, and make no mistake about it, is Caleb Downs. He should be on this list. He 100% should be on this list. Like I said, I got to zoom through this. I am so sorry. Got another show coming up right after this. So we're going to head to Around the Nation and do some live look-ins. Alrighty, Around the Nation, live look-ins. We're going to look at this Boise State and South Florida game. That's a game I have on in the background. I ain't going to watch because I ain't trying to get a copyright flag. But, it is what it is. But right now, both teams, like I said, a lot of mental mistakes. But Maddox Madsen is 15 of 24, 122 yards, averaging 5.1 yards per completion. And then we got Ashton Jency is gone, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know if you guys knew that, but he's gone. Byron Brown, he's making an impact on the ground, though. He's been sacked a few times. That's why it's only 24 yards. At the collegiate level, the 24 yards goes against you. But, So, right now, it's been a really good game. Just, like, a lot of mental mistakes. Boise mistakes got to do something. Got to do something here. And the play y'all heard me going crazy over is they went for a fake punt and got it. And it was a difficult catch to make. So that's the score right now. Boise State does have the ball. I'm not sure what down it is. Might be look like 1st and 10 or something. And then they're on their own 30. So we'll check back into this game in a second. Oh, man, they almost got an interception. It's looking bad. Rutgers versus Ohio. Rutgers is up 31-17. Greg Schiano, it's difficult to go there and get a win. And then I think we're seeing a Tim Albin effect in Ohio. He's now in Charlotte. So it'll be interesting to see. Still a long game, but 31-17 at the moment. Bowling Green is beating Lafayette 17-0. I think this game had a delay. That's why it's still in the second quarter. But if I'm not mistaken, this game started at 5:30, and they're just reaching the end of halftime because of the delay. NC State is beating ECU 17-0. That game is getting out of hand early. We got Jacksonville State versus UCF. That game is delayed right now. We are in the second quarter, and Delaware State and Delaware is 0-0. I think that's phenomenal. Akron versus Wyoming. I do have Wyoming winning this game, but this is in the second quarter, and it's 0-0. So that's interesting as well. Missouri versus Central Arkansas. And this is when you hear people were like, I know last year I think Missouri opened up with Arkansas applying bluff, or maybe that was Arkansas. I'm not sure. But when you hear people like Kirk Cincinnati comment on the SEC, but they're not going to be able to do that for much longer, rather. Duke versus Elon, and then Oklahoma State versus UT Martin. My apologies, everybody. I had so much more I wanted to talk about today, but we will be live quick, fast, in a hurry. I just got to create a thumbnail. Like I said, just stay tuned. Don't go nowhere. Give me about maybe 15 or so minutes. We're not going to be live long, and we're going to give you guys overreaction Monday. As I always like to say, there are no more victories in the sport that survive in the fast. That's why college football has the greatest regular season. And until next time, you all take care. We will be back tomorrow live at our regular scheduled time at 11 a.m. We got a lot to talk about. I want to do a mailbag episode. So if you guys got some college football questions, you want to DM me or send me an email. My email is through. DM me would be better. I really want to do a mailbag episode. So, oh man, that's crazy. So you all take care. Governor of college football. We're gonna recap ACC.
Hey, that's
Great
CJ on
defensive
that
minds.
track.
They have to be better on that side of the ball.